I exposed my dad's affair on Christmas, tore my family apart, and now I'm wondering if it was all for nothing. Hey everyone. I don't even know how to start this. I'm sitting here with a pit in my stomach, and I'm not even sure if what I did was right. My name's Jake. I'm 29, and let's just say this holiday season didn't go as planned. I'm the youngest in my family, with two older sisters, Hannah, 34, and Rachel, 36. Growing up, we were the typical chaotic siblings, always teasing each other, but deep down, we were close. Our parents, Jim and Linda, are kind of the glue that holds everyone together. They've been married for over 40 years and always host a big Christmas dinner at their house. It's the one time of year we all get together, no matter what. Or at least, that's how it's always been. This year, things are different now. And it's my fault. About 2 weeks before Christmas, I was at my parents' house helping them put up decorations. My dad's phone was sitting on the kitchen counter and it buzzed with a notification. Normally I wouldn't pay any attention, but something about the preview caught my eye. The message read, "Can't wait to see you again. Love you, babe." I froze. My dad's in his 60s, and while he's always been a loving husband and father, he's also old school. He barely knows how to text, let alone use emojis. I felt a cold sweat break out as I stared at the screen, trying to make sense of what I just seen. I know it's wrong, but curiosity, and maybe panic, got the better of me. I swiped on the notification and opened the full thread. The messages were from someone named C. It didn't take long to figure out this wasn't some innocent conversation. The texts were flirty, intimate, and undeniably romantic. My dad had been messaging this person for weeks, maybe months. There were vague references to meeting up at our spot and promises to make this work. I felt sick. I put the phone back where I found it and tried to act normal, but my mind was racing. Who was C? How long had this been going on? And most importantly, what was I supposed to do? I couldn't keep it to myself. The guilt was already eating me alive, and I needed answers. The next day, I went back to my parents' house and found my dad alone in the living room. My mom was out running errands, which felt like a sign that it was the right moment. I sat down, trying to sound casual. "Hey, Dad, can I ask you something?" He looked up from his crossword puzzle. "Sure. What's up?" I didn't sugarcoat it. "Who's C?" The color drained from his face. For a few seconds, he didn't say anything, and the silence felt unbearable. Finally, he sighed and rubbed his temples. "Jake, it's not what you think, but it was exactly what I thought." He admitted to having an emotional connection with someone he met at work. A coworker who was much younger than him. He swore it wasn't physical, but the messages told a different story. I didn't know what to do. Part of me wanted to yell at him, to call him out for betraying my mom after all these years. But another part of me felt like this wasn't my business. Maybe I should just let it go and hope he ended it on his own. I gave him an ultimatum. Either he tells Mom the truth or I would. He begged me not to say anything. He said it would destroy her and tear the family apart. He promised to cut things off with C immediately, and for a moment, I believed him. But then I started thinking about my mom, how much she loves him, how she spent her whole life building this family with him. Could I really look her in the eye and keep this secret? The Christmas dinner disaster. Fast forward to Christmas Day. We were all gathered around the table, eating, laughing, and pretending everything was fine. I kept glancing at my dad, wondering if he'd actually ended things or if he was still sneeze, or if he couldn't take it around. I couldn't take it anymore. After a couple of glasses of wine, I blurted it out. "Dad, are you going to tell everyone, or should I?" The room went silent. My mom looked at me, confused. "Tell us what?" My dad tried to deflect, but I didn't let him. I told everyone about the messages, about C, and about what I'd found on his phone. My mom's face crumbled. My sisters started yelling, asking how I could ruin Christmas like this. My dad sat there, silent and ashamed. It's been a few days, and things are still a mess. My mom left to stay with Rachel for a while. My dad's been calling me non-stop, angry that I exposed him. Hannah told me I had no right to get involved, and that I should have kept my mouth shut. But I don't know. I couldn't just sit there and pretend everything was fine, not when I knew the truth. Did I do the right thing, or did I destroy my family for no reason? I keep replaying it all in my head, wondering if there was a better way to handle it. If anyone's been through something like this, I'd really appreciate your advice. Am I the villain here? Update, I wasn't planning to post one, but so much has happened since Christmas. Hey again, it's Jake. I wasn't planning to post an update, but so much has happened since Christmas that I need to get this off my chest. I've been spiraling, wondering if I completely ruined my family. If you read my original post, you know I outed my dad for having an affair with someone at work during Christmas dinner. Well, here's where we're at now. My mom stayed with Rachel for about a week after Christmas. She wasn't answering my calls or texts at first, which I guess I deserved. When she finally did call me, she didn't sound angry, just heartbroken. She told me she had confronted my dad and he admitted everything. Apparently, the affair wasn't just emotional like he claimed. It had been going on for over a year, and C wasn't just some random coworker. She was someone my mom had met at a work event. My mom said she felt humiliated, like her whole life had been a lie. Hearing her like that broke me. I told her I was sorry for how everything came out, but she stopped me mid-sentence. She said, "Jake, don't apologize. I'm glad you told me. I wish I'd known sooner." That was the first time I felt like maybe I hadn't completely screwed up. My dad, on the other hand, is furious with me. He's been calling me every name in the book, saying I had no right to air his dirty laundry in front of the whole family. He claims I've destroyed his marriage, but I keep telling him he was the one who destroyed it by cheating. He tried to spin it like he was the victim. He even said, "You don't understand what it's like to be married for 40 years. People make mistakes." I told him a mistake is forgetting an anniversary, not having a year-long affair. He's still living at the house, but things are tense. My mom isn't speaking to him unless it's about logistics. She's already started looking for a lawyer. This is where things get tricky. Rachel's been super supportive of Mom, but she's also been cold with me. She told me she thinks I had good intentions, but the way I handled it was immature and cruel. She said, "You could have told Mom in private instead of making it a public spectacle." Hannah, on the other hand, is straight up mad at me. She's barely talking to me, and when she does, it's just to remind me that I've ruined the family dynamic. She even suggested I apologize to Dad for blowing things up. I don't think I owe him an apology, but their reactions are making me second-guess myself. Here's the part I wasn't expecting. C reached out to me. She sent me a DM on Instagram, saying she didn't mean to cause any trouble and that my dad had told her he was in an unhappy marriage. She said she thought he was planning to leave my mom soon, and she didn't understand why I needed to get involved. I didn't even respond. I blocked her immediately, but just seeing her name on my screen made my blood boil. I told my mom about it, and she said it just confirmed what she already knew. Dad had been lying to everyone. I've been staying away from the family for now, trying to give everyone space. Part of me wants to just move on and let them figure it out, but another part of me feels like I need to fix things somehow. I don't know. Was I wrong to call him out in front of everyone? Should I have handled it differently? A few days ago, Rachel called me and said we needed to have a family meeting. She said things had gotten too messy and we needed to clear the air. I wasn't thrilled about the idea, but I agreed because, honestly, I just wanted to put all the cards on the table. We all met at Rachel's house. Me, my parents, and both my sisters. The tension in the room was insane. My dad looked like he didn't want to be there, and my mom was holding back tears before we even started. Rachel kicked things off by saying, "We're not leaving this room until we talk about everything." She wasn't messing around. For the first time, my dad actually owned up to what he did. He apologized to my mom and admitted that he'd been selfish and reckless. He said he'd let his ego get in the way of his judgment and that he regretted hurting her. But then he turned to me and said, "Jake, I'm sorry for lashing out at you. I was angry because you exposed me. But the truth is, I needed to be exposed." That completely caught me off guard. I'd been so used to him blaming me that I didn't know how to respond. I just nodded and said, "I appreciate that." My mom was the real MVP of the meeting. She told my dad she was filing for divorce and that she wouldn't be swayed. She said, "You've taken enough from me. I'm not going to let you take my dignity, too." Then she turned to me and said, "Jake, thank you. I know it wasn't easy for you to speak up, but you did the right thing." Hearing that felt like a weight lifted off my chest. The meeting didn't fix everything, but it set the tone for what's next. My mom is moving forward with the divorce, and my dad is staying with a friend for now. Rachel and Hannah apologize for being hard on me, and we're working on repairing our relationship. As for me, I've learned a lot from this whole mess. Sometimes doing the right thing doesn't feel good in the moment, but it's worth it in the end. My family might be broken right now, but I think we're all going to be okay eventually. Thanks for listening, everyone. I really appreciate the support and advice I've gotten here. It means more than you know. Final update. Everyone, I know it's been a while since my last update, and to be honest, I wasn't planning to write this. But things have taken a turn I didn't see coming, and I need to get it out somewhere. I thought doing the right thing would bring some kind of closure, but now I'm starting to feel like I made everything worse. Here's where things stand now. After the family meeting, I thought we'd all turned a corner. My dad admitted his faults, my mom decided to file for divorce, and for the first time, I felt like I wasn't the villain in this story. But life has a way of showing you that things don't always wrap up neatly. For a while, it seemed like my mom was doing okay. She moved into Rachel's spare bedroom while she figured out her next steps. She started therapy, which I thought was a great idea, and even talked about going back to work part-time to keep herself busy. But under the surface, she was struggling. I could see it every time I visited. She'd force a smile, but her eyes were distant, like she was just going through the motions. It was like the life had been drained out of her. My dad, meanwhile, completely checked out of the family. He moved in with C, which felt like a slap in the face to all of us. He didn't even try to mend things with me or my sisters. Rachel and Hannah were furious, and I could tell they were starting to regret how things had played out. One night, Rachel called me out of the blue. She sounded frustrated, almost angry. "Jake," she said, "I know Dad's the bad guy here, but I can't help feeling like you pushed this whole thing over the edge. Maybe if you hadn't said anything, Mom wouldn't be so broken." That hit me like a ton of bricks. I tried to explain that I didn't cause the affair, I just exposed it. But Rachel wasn't hearing it. She ended the call by saying, "I just hope it was worth it." Rachel's words stuck with me, and things only got worse from there. My mom decided to move out of Rachel's house, saying she felt like a burden. She ended up renting a tiny apartment on the other side of town. It's small and lonely, and every time I visit, I feel this overwhelming guilt. Hannah, who had been relatively quiet about everything, finally exploded at a family dinner we had without my dad. She said, "This whole family is falling apart, and I'm sick of it. We should have just kept it together for Mom's sake." We ended up yelling at each other until Rachel stepped in and told me to leave. I haven't spoken to either of them much since. The worst part came 2 weeks ago. My mom called me late at night, crying. She told me my dad had officially moved in with C, and they were planning to get married once the divorce was finalized. She said, I gave him my whole life, Jake, and he's just gone." Hearing her like that broke something in me. I wanted to fix it, but there was nothing I could do. I realized then that, no matter what, my family was never going to be the same. Now I'm sitting here, replaying everything in my head. I keep wondering if Rachel and Hannah are right. Maybe I shouldn't have exposed the affair the way I did. Maybe I should have told my mom privately, or even kept quiet and let her find out on her own. Because now, my dad's gone, my mom's a shell of her former self, and my sisters barely speak to me. I feel like I've lost my family. And for what? To be right. To have the moral high ground. I don't know anymore. I thought exposing the truth would set us free, but all it's done is tear us apart. It's been 6 months since Christmas, and I've come to terms with one thing. I destroyed my family. My dad hasn't spoken to me since he moved in with C. The last thing he said to me was, "I hope you're happy, Jake. You got what you wanted." My mom is still in her apartment, but she doesn't seem to be doing any better. She stopped going to therapy, and when I visited her last week, I noticed bottles of wine piling up in the kitchen. I don't even know how to help her anymore. Rachel and Hannah have officially taken Dad's side. They say I was out of line, that I made things worse for everyone, and that I should have let Mom and Dad handle it on their own. Rachel told me, "You're not the savior you think you are. You just made yourself feel better by blowing up the family." We barely talk now. I didn't even go to Rachel's birthday dinner last month because I couldn't stand the tension. So here I am, writing this update and wondering if I was the real villain all along. Maybe Rachel's right. Maybe I was selfish. Maybe I just wanted to feel like the hero and ended up being the destroyer instead. I keep thinking about something my mom said to me recently. She looked at me with this tired, empty expression and said, "Jake, sometimes the truth isn't worth the pain it causes." I don't know if I'll ever agree with that, but right now, it feels true. Thanks for listening, everyone. I'm logging off for a while. I need to figure out how to live with what I've done, or maybe just how to move on from it.